Recording in progress. Perfect. All right, here we go. And then I'll chop in. However, see. All right. Ready? One, two, three. Good evening, good afternoon, everybody, whatever time of day it is. My name is Coach Gassett, and this is the episode of Recruiting Nightmares with special guest Coach Jacob Hepp from Carolina University. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Man, blessed to have you on the show. Hey, Coach, a lot of people don't know our relationship, right? I met you a couple years ago, man, and it seemed like it just hit just like that. The recruiting process, the communication line. And people start to get kind of jealous because they say, dang, you gonna send all the players you got to Carolina University?
Hey, we'll take all the good ones we can get, right?
You understand? Hey, you take them call every single time. And what I try to tell people is, listen, the best availability is availability. So if you missed the call, hey, I can't help that. That 6-7 went down there. So that's awesome. But no, Coach, man, it's great to have you onto the show, man. One of the things that I want to do is give coaches a platform to give them their flowers. I think people don't understand how important it is, or how big of a role you guys play in our kids' lives. I mean, just from mentoring, making sure that they graduate on time with a college degree, putting them in jobs and making them professionals, not just from basketball, but just in life, preparing them for life after basketball. And we probably do the most and get paid the less amongst everybody out there. So, man, I just want to give you your flowers. I want to say thank you for the work that you do, and may God continue to bless you and the work that you do with our kids, man.
I appreciate that. It's a great opportunity to be on, and get a chance to, we're a small school, so any chance we get to get our name out there and, um, become a contact and a resource and just an option for kids, is huge for us because I think we do a lot of really good things. We're not perfect. None of us coaches are. None of these schools are, but we do have a lot to offer and want to make sure that the kids know all their options.
Absolutely. Now, Coach, how did you get your start in coaching basketball? How did that happen for you?
Um, Shoot, I think, for me, one of the big things was out of high school, I I didn't know any of this, to be honest with you. My high school coach wasn't big on getting kids into college athletics. I mean, we weren't very good. But there's a lot of opportunities out there. And so I went to school to go to school and just desperate to get back into playing, transferred to a smaller school like this one. And got a chance to play and work my way up from a student assistant manager to JV to starting varsity. And that really kind of launched me into having a chance to go back and coach a little bit of high school. Got back on as an assistant coach for my college coach for 3 years and had a chance to take over the program here when he moved into administration. So, um, it's stuff like this that we're going to talk about tonight that you don't know where that takes you long term. I mean, I'm not a guy that was ever going to play professionally or anything crazy like that, but I love the game. And so this keeps me in the game and picking the right school gave me the opportunity to continue that. I mean, had I not picked this school, I mean, there's a lot of reasons not to be a college coach if you're not a part of college basketball ever,
Right.
you know?
You said something kind of ironic. I remember I was talking to a coach Coach Larry over at LSUA, and they're a small community college school. And I asked him, I said, Coach, how did you get your start? Similar. He says, listen, man, I've never played a second of college basketball, but yeah, I have a college basketball job. That blew me away. I said, wait. I don't get it. I don't get it. How did that happen? And he basically put it this way, man. Oftentimes you have a really, really good team. The best player on that team, I mean, the Michael Jordans, the LeBrons, they're great players, but sometimes that does not always translate to being a great coach.
Yep.
Because it's like you try to explain to a kid, this is how I would do it, so I want you to do it this way. Well, that may not work for that particular kid. But then if you look at all the great teams and you look at maybe the seventh, eighth, ninth man, maybe a Steve Kerr, maybe uh, a Stan Van Gundy or somebody like that, they turn to be really good coaches in the NBA or even in college. So that floored me. So I always tell people, listen, if you're willing to study and if you're willing to actually put the time in, you can become a coach at the college level, at least as an assistant. And then once you
Absolutely.
get that time and once you get that pedigree, you may land you a job at a smaller school or whatever the case may be. But you took over the program and your first year head coach. What was it like for you?
It was a lot to learn. You know,
You didn't do
it's
too bad though, coach. You didn't do too bad your first year.
no, no. I mean, we got good kids. I mean, like any coach that has a clue of what makes them successful, they know it's the guys. And so I had a really good group of guys who really rallied and worked hard and played hard and won a good number of games for us. And like I said, you just got there's a lot of learning. It's the same thing when you go from high school to college basketball playing. You got to learn some stuff. It's just different. And when you move over from that assistant chair to standing up, it's
Right,
just different.
right. Right. What would you say would be the most difficult process in terms of coaching and being the head coach of a major program?
I mean, at a school like ours, the hardest part is you gotta do a lot of stuff. We got to do like you said, we're the ones that are on top of their grades. We're doing the grade checks. We're checking their study hall hours. We're helping them get tutoring. We're the liaisons with financial aid. Um, we're the ones that are open the gym for extra workouts. We're the ones that coordinate all that. We drive the vans. You know what I'm saying? Like we've got a lot going on. I think that's probably the hardest part. Just because what we want to do, we want to coach the games, we want to watch the film, and we have to make sure we find the time and put in the work. I think that obviously it's really rewarding because we are so invested. I mean, we're touching on all those points for our guys. It's not like we're sending them, hey, go down the hall to the athletics tutoring center. They'll take care of you. I don't ever look at your grades. We're the ones talking through like, hey, what is it that you want to do long term? Okay, well, these are the classes you really need to be in. These are the ones that you need to excel in. Maybe we need to talk about a major switch because this isn't actually what you want to do. So there's a huge opportunity there because we are so closely connected with the players. But I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a lot.
Right. Right. Now for someone who may not be educated or well known in the sports community, Carolina University, what kind of college is it? If you had to explain to a recruit, what is Carolina University in terms of maybe division or conference, what would be your answer for that?
Yeah, I mean, we have to do that all the time. We are a small Christian university located in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So a pretty decent sized city, not too far from Charlotte, Raleigh, Greensboro, right in that area. But we're a small Christian school, and it was founded. It's founded for pastors really, and it's just grown. I mean, they've merged. There's been 6 or 7 schools that have merged in. And so that's gotten us to a place where we have other degree fields. We have a good business degree program, starting up some of that computer engineering, some of those degrees that are going to be really valuable down the line. And they've added athletics back. And so what we do is we compete for our postseason is run through the NCCAA, so National Christian College Athletic Association. And that group is made up of a lot of schools that just have that same background and same vision. These are Christian schools that want to put Christ first and utilize our platform of competition to emphasize, spiritual growth. And so those other schools, most of the other schools in the NCCAA are also NAIA schools, D3, D2. And so as a result, like our regular season is extremely competitive because those are the types of teams we play. We have to play all those levels to be prepared for our postseason because we're going to see quite a variance. And so I think obviously the NCCAA is a little lesser known, but that is very comparable to, like I said, that NAIA level because most of the schools we see at the national tournament are in fact NAIA teams. I mean, for example, this year our national champion was a team that made NAIA nationals and then ended up coming to our national tournament to win. So it's a very competitive group that just has that common mission, common vision.
Right. Now, so we're talking college basketball here, and most people, when we talk about recruiting nightmares, one of the biggest unknowns that I've come to find out is that most kids don't know that majority of the colleges out there have a development program. Kind of enlighten us on what it means to play basketball at the development level for college, and what is it? What is it actually?
That is such a hard question because every program does it differently. I mean, we talk about that is the thing is every program, every school has a different vision, different mission, and different process for their either JV or their developmental team, and sometimes both, which I can't really quite figure out myself. We have a developmental team, and so we really believe in using that as a platform to try to develop kids to be our future varsity players. I mean, our vision for it is, hey, when you come out of high school, listen, there's some common denominators for most true freshmen. And one of them is that your body is not the same as the 22-year-old kid that's you're going to have to guard. And the other one is you're just not used to the speed of this game. It's just different. And so for us, that's a platform to say, hey, this is a time where we're definitely going to be a little more intentional about your weight training. We're going to teach you our system. We're going to help you adapt to college life. How do you go to class? How do you manage your own bedtime? Because that's a little different now. How do you manage doing your homework? Things like that, and get you up to speed playing games. Because what in the past, what we've seen is, all right, so we get that kid in and we really like them, but all right, so you're not playing for us. So now you're a scout team kid. You're not getting any reps from what I want you to learn. You're running all scout all the time. At the end of the year, you didn't learn anything for me. You just got beat up by the first string all year. And now I'm supposed to expect you to make a jump. I just didn't think that was very fair. So our vision is pretty clear for our developmental team. And I think we have a good track record of using that to elevate guys. That's not true at every school. And you have to really do your homework in those programs because they're all going to run them differently. I think the things you have to look for is, again, asking those coaches, hey, what's your vision for it? Why do you guys have this group? What's your track record of using that? Like, same thing we're talking about, hey, we'll get to this, I guess, later about talking to high school coaches about what's your track record of helping your players get recruited. But, hey, coach, what's the track record of guys making it through? I mean, the harsh reality is not everybody's going to make it through. I mean, that's just, you see it all the time, right? I mean, we see top 15, 20, 25 recruits in the country don't play, don't make it to the NBA. Like, these are supposed to be the studs. I mean, that's just the harsh reality. But what's the track record there? What's the investment by the head coach? I think that's the biggest tell. Does the head coach have anything to do with that developmental team or the JV team? If they are completely disconnected, he's not looking to bring in guys from that group. I think that's your biggest tell. Some schools like us, we scholarship those kids. So, I mean, I think our investment is also like, we're giving you money to be here. A lot of places that may just be all walk-ons. I mean, is there an investment in you? And so those are the things that you've got to ask, because again, we go round and round about transfer portals and COVID years and guys staying longer and all this kind of stuff. But what it comes down to is if you want to play, if you want to make that jump, you want to get better, you got to find a place that's going to give you the opportunity to grow and beat those guys out, because that's the real world. I mean, that's what's happening. There's just these kids, and you watch them. I'm not just talking D1, but you look at these NAIA schools now, and these kids they're not kids, they're men. You're playing against grown men, and they're good. And so you've got to understand there's a process to this.
Coach, and you said something, and I want to make sure we shine a spotlight on that. When you look at your program, it's built almost similar to high school, how they have a main varsity club. Those are your guys. Pretty much 9 out of 10 of those guys are scholarship guys, and that's your team that you're taking on the road every day. But you also have this development program that almost similar or are equivalent to a JV team, but you scholarship those players. So now that is just reinforcing my commitment as a head coach to that team. Like, hey, I'm not just bringing you in here just to fill a roster spot. I'm giving you money to be here. So I'm hoping at some point we create, the key word here is the feeder system.
Yep.
It should be a direct pipeline from the JV to the varsity as a feeder system. And those guys, if I'm not mistaken, are still in school, so they can still maintain and get a degree while they're there too. Correct?
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, that's our goal, right? For our guys, we want them to get a degree. And so, you know, the scholarship for a developmental team player is going to be less than a varsity player. That's, I'm not going to lie to you about that, but it's still helping you get that degree.
Right.
Like I said, it's an investment from us saying, hey, we're serious, and it's an opportunity for you. And it's all about what the player does with that. Because you've got guys that absolutely will take that opportunity and make the most of it. Like I said, that's, as for me as a head coach, it's really easy to buy into that because that was my story.
Hmm.
So I'm very invested in trying to make these, help these guys get a chance. Again, that doesn't always mean you're going to turn into a starter. It doesn't always mean you're going to do these things, but you want a chance. Like, this is it. I get 15 emails a day saying, Coach, I just want a chance. Well, when somebody gives you the chance, you got to take them, you got to take it. And it is hard when kids, you see that, you read that email, you get that phone call or that text, I just want a chance, Coach. And then you come back with this, say, hey, this is what I have right now. Like, no, man, that's not me. It's like, okay, well, then I guess you're not hungry enough.
Right.
I don't
Right.
know what else to say.
Right. Because if you really want to do it, you'll make it happen.
You'll make it
Whether you
happen.
got to walk, drive, finance, mama, daddy, sister, loan, whatever you got to do, you'll make it happen. And so I love that, coach. I really do. Now, this show is called Recruiting Nightmares. I can only imagine as a college coach the amount of headaches you have, especially in the month of March, April, May, June, in terms of recruiting a kid. So, Carolina University, how do they recruit? If I am a prospect in the next upcoming class, and I want to get on your radar, what do I have to do?
I mean, I think there's a couple things for us. I mean, we recruit Christian student athletes. So I always look at it in that order. First and foremost, what's your character like? Not every, again, we have some kids that are here studying, their major is biblical studies. That's great. Not all I mean, most of my guys are not that. But do you have any interest, any willingness to be open to what we're going to talk about in terms of faith? And also, what's your character? Like, I'm not interested in guys that want to do the Hollywood college life of like, hey, I want to go to a party after game. I want to drink on the weekends. This isn't a good fit. And I can't speak to every program. I know every place is different. But for us, that is the number one thing. We need to have guys in here that we want, our current guys that they want to be around, because that's the type of guys we have. And quite frankly, I like to minimize as many headaches as possible on that front. After that, we're talking about the student part. You've got to have something to the table. We're talking about college athletics. We're not talking about city league, man. Like, you got to bring something to me in the academic front. Being
Right.
eligible is not good enough. It's just not. And so we want to see some kind of commitment to academics. Now, obviously, that's going to look different for everybody. I'm not saying that because you don't have a 3.5, you can't play college basketball. But if you have a 2.8 and you could have had a 3.3, that's going to tell me something. If you busted your butt to get that 2.8, that tells me something. And so we're looking at that. And then we also have to look at the right major. I mean, I really struggle with guys saying, hey, I want to play college basketball, and I don't care what I study. You should care. You should
Right.
care. It should matter, man. Like, this is going to be a super awesome time of your life, but it is going to be a fairly short time of your life. And so we want guys that are, again, have a degree that they're pursuing that they actually care about, because it's really hard. It's really hard to go to a 300 level course of a degree field that you don't care about. It is really hard.
Right.
So that's a big piece. And then, then we get to basketball. Whenever I talk with a kid on the phone, we talk probably 30 minutes about those two things. And then basketball, that's when we finally talk basketball about how do you fit into what we do here on the basketball court, because not everybody, you can be a great player and not be a good fit for our system, and therefore you're not going to play as much as you should. And so we got to talk about that and talk through, like, hey, what are the things that I look for, as far as what are my nonverbal cues that as a coach I feed off of, and as a coach I don't care for. Again, that's going to be different everywhere you go, but so that's what we're looking for now. As far as getting on our radar, there's a ton of ways. Twitter is an awesome resource. I'm not gonna lie to you, right? As a coach, I use Twitter. I mean, getting in touch with people like yourself. I think everybody in the state of Florida is 2 levels removed from you. So that's huge. And, but like I said, I get a ton of emails all the time, recruiting services, recruiters, and just individual emails. The biggest thing for me that puts you on my radar is there's something specific in your email that says that you didn't just mass this thing out to 75 coaches. All you got to, even just changing the intro, instead of "Hey coach," it's "Hi Coach Heck." All right, now you've at least looked up my name. Okay,
Right.
we're talking here, and we can look at that email and go through the process. So there's a ton of ways to get on coaches' radars, but there's a lot of ways that set you apart. And I would say that the things, like I said, that are setting you apart is, one, you're like I said, those emails are huge if they're specific. If there's any type of like, "Hey, I've looked at, you guys have my major." Okay, you just flew up my board because you at least did that. You at least checked to see about the major. Quite frankly, if you have complete sentences with capital letters and punctuation, you would be shocked at how many people don't write me a halfway formal email. I mean, that tells me a lot. That tells me a lot. So those are the things. Obviously, all of us coaches, we want to get out to everybody's games all the time. But the reality is, with our schedule, we can't go on Friday nights when high schools are playing. Man, I'm busy. I'm playing. So you want to get on our radar, you've a lot of times got to make that first step at the small college level.
Right. And coach, you talked about system, and I was never the best player on any of my basketball teams by far, but I can always tell you I was always one of the smartest, because when you're not gifted naturally with that athleticism, or maybe even the ability to be able to shoot, or just have that one particular trait that sets you apart from everybody else, you have to do other things like play defense and hustle, and just be an all around good teammate. So, I was blessed to have some really, really good coaches, guys that, won state championships, even the staff that I'm on now. And one of the things that we always constantly battle with kids is about system. You know, kids not understanding, help, ball pressure, deny. Kids not understanding how to set a proper screen. Kids not even understanding what the 5-second count is, because we don't have a shot clock here. So how difficult is it to get a kid from high school to college and get them to buy into system oriented basketball? Because at the end of the day, it's college. Everybody's good for the most part.
Yeah.
Everybody can go for 20, 15 points. So how do you get a kid who was the best player maybe in their state to come now to your program and buy into your system and your philosophy?
Man, I mean, if I knew a for sure way, I'd write a book and retire, man, because I know everybody wants that answer. For me, I think it starts with a relationship. And so when we start this recruiting process, I mean, I'm trying to get to know the person. Um, we can watch film and I can know you as a basketball player. Like, that's actually my job, right? Like, I watch film all the time. That's my job. But I need to know you as a person. What is it that makes you tick a little bit? Are we gonna mesh? Because there's sometimes too, like, hey, there's some players, they want to play the way that they want to play and they're really good at it. And I can respect that. You need to go to a place that values what you bring. There's a lot of players that are multi-talented, and it's like, hey, I just want to be in a place that's going to give me a chance to be successful. Okay, like, let's talk about what I think you are best at and how we can use you. So it's got to start with, like I said, got to start with a relationship and getting to know coaches, getting to know players, but players getting to know coaches too. Like, you got to start to get a feel for, like, hey, is this going to be good for me? I'm a guy that likes to pick up 94 feet, and I want to, I'm a ball dominant guard. Okay, well, not every coach loves that. We just watched an amazing ball dominant guard from Kansas State.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not every coach is interested in that player. Nobody's arguing the fact that he's good or not. We all know he's good. It's just, is he the way that he plays, does that fit the style that you want, quite frankly, that you want to watch from the sideline every night? That's a big part of it, right? So just because it's not a good fit doesn't mean you're not a good player. It just means you got to find that. And then, like I said, as a coach, I've got to start to differentiate, like, Can you do what I need you to do? Can I motivate you to do the things I want you to do? And um, we play a kind of a very particular style here that, there's a lot of guys that could do it if they want to. And that's what we have to figure out in the recruiting process is there a want to adjust? Is there a want to learn the one skill you're missing for me? Those sorts of things. And I just think that starts with, I love getting to know the guys. Like I said, a big part of this is the mentorship, the relationship. And so that's what I spend most of my recruiting time doing. I don't need to, like I said, I watch film on guys, but I don't need to watch hours and hours of film. I need to spend hours and hours talking with you, getting to know you, letting you get to know me. That's what actually needs to happen.
And so now we talked about the system, right? And we talked about recruiting a kid. Now you found that kid, that Christian athlete, high GPA. He passes the eye test, articulates himself well. Now you're like, okay, I want to offer this kid, but he has no test scores, no NCAA ID number. What's your conversation with the coach on that one? And how difficult is it now to continue recruiting for that kid? And how common is that?
Well, to be honest with you, the COVID stuff has really made the test scores weird. A lot of schools have gone away from them because so many kids didn't have them, and now it's coming back. So that is a little bit of that's a gray area that's kind of challenging. There's a lot of ways around it right now. I don't know what that's going to mean for every school moving forward. I do think that when you're recruiting a kid, though, you want to see that investment prior to that phone call. Because you get that a lot. Kids have really weak grades, and then the senior year they want to turn it on. They say, well, hey, I got a 3.4 my senior year. I'm like, well, what's your cum? My what? Your cumulative GPA. Oh, it's like a 2.5. It's like, okay, so you're capable of awesome, and you messed around. Like, this didn't mean enough to you early enough. And that doesn't mean we can't work around it, but everything you do says something. So getting yourself your test scores your junior year like you're supposed to, that opens up more doors. You may not need them, but because you did it, now you have more doors. Doing the NCAA clearinghouse, I don't need that. The NAIA and the NCCAA don't necessarily need that. We have different rules. But because you did the NCAA clearinghouse, now you opened up more doors. So it's how invested are you in yourself? And so my big thing with these guys, what I run into the most is the application coach. They want an offer. They want to know all this stuff, and they don't apply. It's like, hey man, I need an application to start this process, because unfortunately there's a few kids out there that have ruined it for you because they're offer hunting. They want to put 28 posts on their social media, and they're not interested in 23 of them, but they want an offer. So now for me, I don't want to waste my time on somebody that's not going to invest in me. So my process is a lot more like, can you get me your transcripts? Can you go to your guidance counselor and ask them to print off an unofficial? That's not really that hard. Will you do that for me? Will you fill out our application? It's not that hard. Will you take some steps? And when kids kind of drag their feet on taking those steps, like I said, it says a lot. It says a lot.
So, that was one of recruiting nightmare here. That was one of the biggest things that I bumped into. Kids didn't understand that a school, one, really should not offer you unless you apply to the school first. Because at the end of the day, I can offer you verbally all I want, but if you apply to my school and admissions doesn't accept you, there's nothing that I can do. And they don't understand, kids don't understand that. A coach can offer me, but I still have to get accepted into the school. And you'll be surprised. And I love what you do. I don't think we've ever talked about this off the air, but I love what you do in terms of, I'm not just going to offer a kid just to offer a kid. I want you to do an application. I want to get your unofficial transcript because I want to see if you're even eligible to get into my school. But then also, I'm not big on the conditional offers. Hey, I'm going to give you this offer with the intentions that you're going to do this, 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 this. But now that sells false hope because now I have that offer verbally, and I'm coasting now. I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
I'm joking off my senior year. I'm not taking it as serious as I once was. There's no motivation. There's no incentive behind it. And now I don't meet the qualification to get into your school senior year. Now guess what? I can't go to your school. Now people are gonna ask, you had 20 offers. You went JUCO. What happened? You ever
You're gonna be a
wonder
what
what
happened guy.
happened?
Yeah.
You see it all the time. And but now my question is, where does that responsibility fall? Is that on the kid? Is that the parent? Is that the coach? Is it a shared collective group effort? Because honestly, you don't know what you don't know.
Absolutely. And that's hard because, you talk, again, we hear the nightmares of everybody that really knew the answers and didn't take care of it. And then you hear the other kind of nightmare, your heart breaks for the kid because
Right.
nobody's helping him. And so I really think it's got to be shared. I mean, it's got to be shared. Number one, high school coaches, if you're a head high school coach, you've got to have some concept of what this process looks like, in my opinion, because this is, if we're about the kids, because high school coaches don't get paid anything, and I understand that. They really don't. I did that. I know that. But you've got to, at least when a kid comes to you and say, Coach, this is what I want to do, you've got to at least give them the first couple of steps. Can you at least tell them, hey, you need to get this, this, and this? Coaches are, that's a big piece. Can you get, like, again, saying, hey, this is the bare minimum eligibility, and this is really what coaches are looking at. Okay, you've got to actually apply. You've got to reach out to folks. Let me get you the game tape you need. Little things like that. I mean, at least that. Obviously, there's guys that do it way better, but I think I've had it where kids are saying, Coach, I can't get you my game film. My high school coach won't get it for me. I'm like, what? He doesn't watch it? Like, come on now.
And that's assuming that he even films the game.
Right.
You'll be surprised, man. There are coaches out there that don't even film their games.
Crazy. To me, that's just like, again, you're just selling your kids short because they're not all D1s, guys. I mean, high school coaches need to know that too. Hey, there's a lot of ways to help get school paid for, even when your kid isn't a McDonald's All-American. All right. There's a lot of kids. I mean, we have kids. Obviously, I would much rather have a kid from a winning program if I can, but we've got a lot of kids that their high school team wasn't very good. That doesn't mean they're not a good player. That doesn't mean they can't contribute. So I think there's a piece for the coaches, high school coaches. There's definitely a piece on the parents, and I will say the biggest piece on the parents is you guys have got to do that FAFSA for us. That is huge when we start talking about helping you understand what your responsibilities are going to be financially. If that FAFSA is not done, everything hits a stop, and the kid cannot do that for himself. And the weird rules on that are, even if you've got a student athlete who's 20, they went JUCO, whatever, and now the parents aren't involved in their life at all. This young man is making his own money, paying his own rent, whatever. He still needs his parents to sign off on the FAFSA because he's still, he's still a certain age. There is a lot of regulations on that. So that is the number one thing we need from parents. Do the bare minimum for your child. Let them at least have the chance. And then, like I said, there's definitely a responsibility on the kid. You've got to take care of your business. Like you said, hey, if you get some interest, you're playing in the, U16, U17 stuff, and, or your high school team's good and coaches are coming around, and you start thinking you've made it, you're missing the mark.
Right.
Like, you got to continue to open doors for yourself. Get the grades. That opens more doors. Take the test. That opens more doors. All those sorts of things. Do your research. That opens doors. Having a sense of what's going on is opening doors. Start to envision what college do you actually want to be at. Because there's a lot of kids that, I want to play college basketball. What do you want that to look like? I don't know. I haven't thought about it. Okay, that's a big question. Do you just want to be on the roster? Do you want to be a contributor?
Right.
I recruited a kid, and he's a great kid. he would have been a player at our level, but he had some, family connections that allowed him to be a preferred walk-on at a big time D1. And he had to make the decision, do I want to have that experience and basically never play? Or do I want to be a player? I'm not saying which one is right. It's different for everybody. So you have to envision, as a student athlete, you've got to envision, what is it that I want out of this experience? And I think that, again, opening all the doors that you can with your work, and then looking at, what do I want? And that's what you should use to narrow down. Not my effort shouldn't narrow doors. My decision should
Right.
narrow doors.
Right. Awesome. Man, that's awesome, Coach. A couple more questions for you. So watch this, right? So we talk about the coaches in high school, travel basketball coaches. Are they a help or are they a cancer in terms of recruitment, in terms of just the interaction that you've had with travel basketball coaches? Because, it used to be a point where there were maybe, you know, 10 to 15 travel teams really throughout the state. And then maybe in your city, maybe one or two. And if that, and they were really competitive teams.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everywhere you look, it's a travel team popping up, mom and pop's travel organization here, want to be Division 1, we send kids basketball, or the big one is everything elite. What have you seen in the travel industry from, the coaches, and how supportive are they?
That's, again, it just totally it is such a big spectrum. I've got some that I really trust, and they're amazing. They do awesome things for these kids. And there are some that I can't hardly take their phone calls, because they say one thing and it just doesn't, there's no follow through. So it really depends. I think, for me, what I typically look at with the travel ball stuff, it's more of a confirmation of what I thought. You talked earlier about system. There's some of these programs that really, they still play team ball. They still do a lot of good stuff. There's some structure there, but unfortunately, way too many of these groups and teams, there's really no structure. It's a lot of one-on-one with 8 guys on the court. And so I typically lean on high school game film to say, hey, what does this kid look like? Because I have a better idea of the structure and the competition level. I usually use the travel ball stuff as a confirmation of, like, okay, I thought he was a good shooter. He is a good shooter. I thought he was quick enough to stay in front of people. He can stay in front of people. It's a little bit more of a confirmation, because I've seen a lot of that stuff. Those get recorded by mom and dad in the stands, and you're looking at it going, well, we're playing up and down here, and there's only 6 people on any half of the court at any given time. It doesn't help me a whole lot. I appreciate that your son just scored 30, but he did it playing 3-on-3. That doesn't tell me a lot. And again, there's some of these that you go and you're like, all right, this is a good program, and this is a good program. This is a really good game, and this is super helpful because I know that kid, and I know of this kid, and I know where they're going. Okay, we've got a good one here. So I'm not going to discount the whole thing, but it's hard. And so I think from those travel ball coaches, again, it's those guys have to know who they're working with. Not all their kids are D1 either. As much as you love that kid, as often as you train him, you've got to put him at a place where he's going to be successful. And you've got to call the right coaches for him to be successful. Because that is probably that environment is probably more toxic for the D1 or bust type of stuff. You just think, hey, if I play this one game in front of the right coach, they're going to sign me.
Right.
They're not. I think it's very, very, very rare that a coach comes and walks around at that hoops summit, whatever, and goes, that kid right there, I just watched him for 15 minutes. That's my guy.
You're right.
It's not happening. Like, it's going to help you. Yeah, you're going to get seen, you're going to get talked to, but then you're still going to have to pass all these tests that we've been talking about. And so I think it's again, those coaches need to know, like, hey, what do I need for my kids? And maybe their high school coach dropped the ball. So be the one that says, yo, man, you got to get that test score in. I mean, you might have to miss this tournament because you need to go take your ACT on Saturday morning. What are we doing to help them Open all those doors. Because if we're going to say, hey, we're doing this for exposure so college coaches can see you, you better have your ducks in a row on the back end, because it's necessary. It doesn't change that.
And coach, you hit it right on the head, man. Just because you play in front of 100 college coaches or scouts, that does not guarantee you an offer. And that's what most travel coaches do. That's how they recruit and get all these really, really talented players. It's like, hey, we play in front of these guys. We play on this particular circuit. Well, yeah, you may play on the UAA circuit or Nike circuit, but you're losing by 70 every night. And you're playing in front of all these college coaches, but none of your kids are going to get offers because of some of the other things that we talked about: the applications, the test scores. The higher the division, the harder it is to get into those colleges.
Oh yeah.
And you have to really be an exceptional player and have to be not only a great player, but also a great athlete. And I think a lot of kids forget that. But the one big question, and kind of to wrap everything up and bring it all full circle, is the parents. The parents that their son is Division One. They're the next coming of Michael Jordan. You know, you talk to this parent, he's the best thing since sliced bread. I mean, they're gonna big their kid up, which they should. Not saying that you should not be a biggest supporter of your child, but how much do you take in consideration what parents give you in terms of their kid? How helpful is it to you?
I've been really fortunate. I've had a lot of great parents the last few years, especially here at Carolina University. I've been really fortunate, really, really blessed. But I did think, and I was like, hey, what are some of the things that I consider red flags from parents?
Mm-hmm.
When mom or dad, or whoever is helping this young man comes through, some of the things that really make me nervous. The number one is when you badmouth the old coaches. Well, their high school coach didn't know anything, and that's why he didn't play. So that's what you're going to say about me. That's exactly what you're going to say about me when it doesn't go your way, right? So the number one thing is, you can think that all you want, but if that's the number one thing you want to talk about with a college coach, you are setting up a big time red flag. Not doing any homework on the school. Same thing as the kid. I love it. They come to visit and they don't know anything about us. That's hard. Like, that doesn't show me a lot of, appreciate you coming, but our stuff's all over the internet. It's not that challenging to have, some basics. And I think, again, that we're going to talk about investment a lot. Like, if I'm going to invest this much time, energy, resources, like, I want some kind of return investment. Assuming too much about money or playing time. When you can't assume that you're a full ride, full boat kid. Very few kids have that. I don't know what the current stat is, but the number of student athletes playing basketball that have a considered full ride is so low. It's so low. And so you need to understand there's going to be, again, you've got to do your FAFSA, because even no matter how much I want to scholarship your kid, my financial aid office is not going to sign off on it unless they have a FAFSA. That's like number one. Like, you'd be shocked at how much free money they can find you if you would fill it out. So don't assume too much about the scholarship or the playing time. That's the other thing. And he coming in and saying, we're working the kid out, and he's having a great workout. And they're going, oh yeah, man, he's going to start for you. And it's like, you don't make that decision.
Right.
We're a long ways from that decision. So that's hard. Talking for your son. If I'm on the phone call, I love having the parents on there, so we're all on the same page. That's fantastic. But I do want to hear from your son. Let him speak some. You can ask your questions, you can give your input, but make sure that the kid that I'm going to spend hours and hours and hours with is the one I'm hearing from. And the last thing is, you've got to let go some, because this is a different realm. Your son's got to go, and he's going to play, and he's going to have to go through some hard things, and you're going to have to let go. And so if we get the sense that you're not willing to do that, that is a turnoff. If we get the sense that you're going to be the first one I see when I come out of the locker room every night because you're hanging around, or he's got to go home every weekend, it makes me nervous. You've got to let him go through it. He's going to have to learn some of this stuff on his own. And that's okay. Like, we're here to support him. We all want to be on the same page, but you've got to let him take his lumps sometimes so we can learn the lesson.
Mm-hmm. Man. Hey, coach, man. Amazing interview. I think what we're getting ready to do is lay the foundation for, not just this group of kids, but just every group right after that. I mean, we need to really put a big emphasis on giving coaches like you your flowers because, like I said, Duke, Kansas, Kentucky, Notre Dame, they can sell themselves. But when you are a Division II, Division III, NAIA, NCCAA school, I mean, you have to create your own brand, your own marketing, and push your agendas. And you do an amazing job of that. You have put a big emphasis on recruiting kids out of Florida, the last couple of years, and hopefully that, recruiting Florida brings you a ton of success. It also keeps us in business here. So, I just want, like I said, coach, I just want to give you your flowers, man. Thank you for all that you do because you are right. You guys are underpaid for the amount of work and time that you spend with these kids. So, God bless you. Thank you. And, what one last final thought that you could think of that you can just give to that kid or coach or Scott that may be watching this?
I mean, I want to talk to the kids as much as possible here, and you just find the right fit, please. Find the right fit. Don't worry. The name, the color, the shoe brand, the level, those should not be your number one determining factors. You need to look for where's your opportunity. What do you want to do? Where's your opportunity for that? What's the size of the school? Not all of you guys actually want to go to a big time school. Not all of you guys want to show up at the University of Texas where it's bigger, the campus is bigger than the city you grew up in. Think about it, right? Think about the size. Think about the distance. I mean, I talk to a lot of kids where it's, hey, I want to transfer closer to home. Some people want to leave. Some people want to stay where they're a day's drive. You've got to consider that. Consider your degree. Go to a school that's going to help you get your degree. Go where you are wanted. Just because you've got big level, whatever, calling here, go where you are wanted. Go where the coach is going to invest in you and give you those opportunities. Because again, it's tons and tons and tons of people reaching out saying, hey, I went here because it was blank and I never got a chance. I never was valued. Go to where you're wanted. Because there's a ton of schools like us out there where you're going to have a great career, a great college career. You're going to have the opportunity to get your degree. You're going to build big time lifelong relationships. And that's why this 4 or 5 years of college athletics can be the best time of your life. But if you go someplace that's not a good fit, you're going to be doing this recruiting thing all over again. And I promise you, it does not actually get easier. It is much easier to get it close to right the first time. Because then you're competing against a lot of people. So again, Coach Gadsden, I appreciate you, all that you do for kids. And, you're one of those guys that's always in the best interest of the student. And so we appreciate that. And I hope that this does help, some guys, some parents, some high school coaches love to connect and be a resource too. All the coaches and people that are watching, my email's on the website. Go ahead and hit me up. Let's connect and talk about how we can help your student athlete, reach their dreams too.
Coach, man, I appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time out to take this interview on Recruiting Nightmares. And like I said, Coach, continue to keep doing what you're doing, man, and may God bless you.
Thanks. You too, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.